All right, let's talk about vinyl cutting. Our vinyl cutter is a really useful tool to make precise cuts, usually out of sticky vinyl, like a giant sticker. But with practice, you can also cut materials like craft foam, paper, or felt. So the way that you're going to get the vinyl cutter to cut out a design is you need to get your design first. You're going to set up your design using the vinyl cutter software. There is specific software that goes with specific vinyl cutters, but you can also get your designs from the internet or design them yourself using that software or other vector software that you are familiar with. Common vector formats that you might find your files include SVG files, which have information about where and how to cut. That can work for a lot of different cutter things, not just the vinyl cutter, but things like the laser cutter and CNC machines. You can create your vector images using shapes and text and design software, or find them online. Once you have your design set up, you're going to pick the material that you're going to want to use. Sticker vinyl, probably the most common, but you can also use heat transfer vinyl for making custom apparel. You're going to place your material on a sticky cutting mat to ensure that it stays stable during the cutting process. You're going to load that mat with the materials into the vinyl cutter, and then depending on the machine and your design settings, you may need to adjust things like the blade depth or the speed or the pressure, but usually the default settings are going to work for most projects. Real quick, talking about different kinds of vinyl. The sticker vinyl, probably, again, the most common vinyl that we're going to use with our vinyl cutters. It's really good for creating stickers and decals. Heat transfer vinyl, or HTV, it's used for fabric products. Once it's cut, you can place it on a fabric like a t-shirt or a tote bag and apply heat to activate the adhesive, making it stick to the fabric. We have a heat press here. You can use an iron or some sort of other heat transfer solution. This method is really good for making custom shirts, bags, hats, pretty much anything you can get out of fabric or that your heat transfer vinyl says it will stick to. So once you have your design created and your design cut out, you need to go through a process called weeding, where you take all of the design that you're not going to use, peel it up, so that way you can get just the sticker part or the heat transfer part and use transfer paper to get that from the material you cut out to where it's going to finally go. We have tools that you can use to make this easier. Usually fine tooth or fine detail stuff, kind of like dentist tools, are really good. There are specific tools to weeding that can help you pick out some of the more complex shapes. So vinyl cutting, really cool and versatile, exciting way to create custom designs. You should experiment with different kinds of materials and techniques, and don't forget to ask for questions, drop them in the online forum, and I will get back to them as soon as I can. Happy cutting! All right, let's talk about the vinyl cutter. We're gonna go start to finish how to use the vinyl cutter, how to get stuff cut out. We're not gonna talk about how to use the heat press for this video, but you will be able to prepare all your cuts for the heat press. Heat pressing is gonna be a separate video. Let's talk about the vinyl cutter. Vinyl cutter is this machine right here. Normally there's gonna be a computer connected to the vinyl cutter. You can also install the software onto your own computer if you want, but there's a computer here where you can do all the prep and all the sending as well. Talk about how it's currently laid out, look to see if anything is different. It's all going to be labeled. We have the cutter itself. We have tools for getting the stickers off and getting them ready to apply on. We have transfer paper where you can stick it over your prepped sticker to get it off the original backing onto where you want it to go. We have scraps of vinyl. These need to be prepped. You can't just throw any garbage in there. It needs to be bigger than a dollar bill in both dimensions, and it needs to be cut into a rectangle. To help with that, we have a paper cutter right down here, the bottom shelf, so you just slide it in, make sure it is good dimensions. We also have full sheets of vinyl on the bottom, so if you can't find the scraps you need or you need a bigger one, there's full sheets of vinyl on the bottom of the cart. We have all of our cutting mats, and if you take nothing else away from this video, what I want you to remember is that your cutting mats have a protective piece of plastic on top of them. Take it off while you're cutting, put it back on when you're done. That's gonna keep these working for a nice and long time. If you don't, they'll get dusty, they'll get gross and yucky, and they won't stick the way they need to for how you're doing vinyl cutting. That is it. Other stuff will be labeled. I'll post any updates that we do as we do this, but again, machine, weeding tools, transfer paper, full sheets of paper, but try and use the offcuts first, and then our cutting mats that you always put the protective film back on when you're done. All right, let's go over to my computer. I'm going to get a file prepped for cutting. All right, so stickers are awesome. The vinyl cutter is awesome for doing some basic stuff like text, shapes, and then outlines of different existing images. I'll show you all these things. To start with text, this is Silhouette Studio. Silhouette Studio is available if you Google Silhouette Studio and get the software. You can download it right there. You can get the free version. You don't need anything fancy. You just need the basic version. You don't need to sign up for anything. You don't need to pay for anything. You just get the base version, or like I said, use it on the computer that's already connected to the cutter. Silhouette Studio looks like this. I want to talk to make sure that you're looking like your page setup is good. If it doesn't look like this, what you need to do is go into the page setup, make sure our machine is automatically detected, make sure the feed type is automatic, cutting mat is automatic, media size is automatic. All the defaults, all the automatic stuff should be good for everything. The only time you're not going to do this is if you're doing a really big thing and you need a roll of vinyl. That's a different thing, but when you get to there, holler for help. This is just for the basics, all right? So our media size is always 12 by 12. We always have the cutting mat. You should see that little gray background behind it with the arrow pointing. If you don't see that, then you need to make sure that you have the mat turned on and that you, where is that? We have the cutting mat automatically turned on, all right? Cool, let's talk about text. If you just want to make a sticker, you can click on the text, click anywhere, and you can type in what you want to be cut. As you type, you'll see the outline start to show up. Anywhere you see a red outline is where it's going to do a cut line on your vinyl. All right, this is awesome most of the time. Sometimes you'll need to think about whether you have holes on the insides of your shapes or not. That'll affect how your cutout will cut out. One thing you might consider doing is some sort of stencil font. Stencil font is going to be a way of making sure it's all good. All right, so think about what kind of font you want and whether there's going to be holes in the middle. If you want to change the fonts after you have it out there, you can click on the drop down for the font up here and it should change. If you click away from it, or you're on a different tool, you should be able to get back to the font over here, or on the right side, you can open the fonts tool and you can pick out all sorts of different stuff and pick out which one you want. All right, so like I said, a stencil one over here is where you can search for your fonts that you want. I don't know if I have a stencil right here. I don't know what it is. So I'm just kind of picking stuff out. I don't see any great ones right now, so I'm just gonna pick that one. And then when you go to send it, it'll cut out anywhere you see the red line out there. Shapes are going to be very similar. You have a couple of simple shapes right here. You have rectangles, you have rounded rectangles, ovals, and polygons. You can click through there and change some of the settings that are in there. If you just want the words and an outline around it, a rectangle is a really easy way to do that. All right, so this is pretty much it. That's the text and that is the font. Sometimes the software gives you too many things. You can just click out of them, click onto it, and delete it. All right, I'm also going to show you how to get some images in there. All right, so we can't do full color images. This is really, really good for simple shapes. I'm going to show you two examples. Look, I have a cute dinosaur. I'm going to copy this cute dinosaur and put it onto Silhouette. So the full color image is there. It's not going to print right like that. What you need to do is the image trace. Image trace is a super powerful tool in Silhouette Studio. I call it the butterfly. I don't know if it is a butterfly, but it's the trace panel. You click on it, and here's how you get this shape cut out. You click select trace area, you click a rectangle around the shape that you want to trace, and then you'll see yellow show up. The yellow is what it thinks is the shape that you want to keep. I want the whole dinosaur, not just the thick black outline, so I'm going to mess with the threshold until it has most of, there it is, okay? There's my shape. Now I'll need to mess with it a little bit if I want to keep the eyes and the smiley face and the spots. I might start with that and get rid of one of them, but you'll have to kind of play around with these settings until it gets you the shape that you actually want to keep. So I guess I will keep it like this for now and make it, boom, like that. All right, once you have it, you can either trace it, trace just the outer edge, or trace and detach. All right, trace is usually what you're going to want to do. If you trace the outer edge, it's only going to keep the outside stuff. If you trace and detach, it's going to put it into probably too many pieces. You can play around with this, but go ahead and hit trace. And then you'll have two things. So you'll have the picture, the full color picture, which you can now delete because you don't need it anymore. Now you have your shape. There's my cute little dinosaur. All right. What I could do now is I can go into object and I can tweak this a little bit. You're welcome to explore what this would look like. For example, if I want to get rid of the outline of the dinosaur and just keep it as one big shape with the smiley face in there, I would release the compound path. And now I can see it turns into a whole bunch of different shapes. So if I keep that inside one, now that's actually the shape I want. It's the dinosaur outline with the cute smiley face. All right, I'll show you another example of what this looks like. I'm going to go and get a logo like this. Nice, simple logo with big shapes, really great for tracing. So I'm going to drop this over here. I'm going to do the trace again. I'm in the trace tool. I'm going to select a trace area and draw a box around the edge. Didn't quite get enough, so you can see that yellow isn't going to the outside of it. So I'm going to undo real quick and do a better job of tracing the shape that I want to do. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. All right, mess with the threshold a little bit so I get all the parts of the shape. Trace, and I'll show you what trace and detach is. Trace and detach is basically what I had last time, where there's that shape, there's that shape, and oops, now they're two separate shapes. Oh, they're not two separate shapes. I'm not sure why that's not working, because I need to release the path again. All right, but now you can see I have that shape like that. I like it the other way that I had it, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to just undo a bunch of times. I'm just going to trace it. Boom. There we go. All right, so delete that. My colors look good, and if I need to, I can release compound path. That is how you're going to do it if you have multiple colors. Stickers are great for one color. So if you want to have multiple colors for multiple shapes, you need each shape to be cut out separately. One of the easier ways to do it is to do multiple cuts. Another thing you could do is you could give different colors for different shapes. So I'm going to make the dinosaur this color, and its face to be that color, and I'll show you what that looks like later on. In general though, for basic stickers, just keep it one color. If you need to have two colors in your sticker, you can mess around with how to set that up on two separate cuts. The scraps are going to be your best friend for that. All right, so now we have our design set ready to go. What we're going to do is we're going to get it sent over to the vinyl cutter. Before we do that, we should load material into the vinyl cutter. So first what we're going to do, we're going to take our cutting mat out of the storage. We're going to take the protective sheet off the cutting mat, because we always put the cutting sheet or protective sheet back on the cutting mat. And I'll show you how we get the material lined up on the cutting mat. Let's see, recording. Good. And this is the same whether we're doing a small piece or a full piece. And again, just in case I didn't say it, these small pieces are great for when you don't need an entire full sheet. If you're just doing a little sticker, these small pieces are really good. When you put material back into here, make sure that it's at least as big as a dollar bill in both dimensions, and make sure that it is squared up on the edges, or rectangled up on the edges. Use the paper cutter down below to make sure that that is set up the way that you want it to be. I'm going to get this beautiful blue color and set it up on the cutting mat. All right, cutting mats have a top left corner. All right, so you're going to put your vinyl in the top left corner based on where the numbers are, and just set it right there. All right. Most of the time the vinyl cutter is going to be good to go. I do want you to double check that the rollers are outside of the farthest edges. This one doesn't move. This one does. If you ever notice that the roller is not at that far right triangle, you can use the lever to lift the bar, the button to slide the roller around, and it's probably going to be on that one for whatever reason. It doesn't usually go there, so just make sure that it's always on the outside triangle. There's a little place where it kind of clicks into place, and then lower the bar. All right. Once that's ready to go, you can line up the cutting mat on the left edge of the line where the double triangles are, and then, oh, I didn't put it in the right spot. Check that out. All right. Okay, and then lower the bar. All right. Once that's good to go, you can line up your cutting mat on the left side where the double triangles are, and then you hold it in place while you press the load button. And I'll take the cutting mat in there. That way the vinyl is stuck to the mat is into the cutter, and you're ready to go. Back on my computer, I go over to send. All right. And usually the default settings for Silhouette are what you need, but let's just go through them, double check, and make sure we see what we want there. All right. For your cuts, unless you know that you're doing something different, the default setting that you should have is cut. All right. So I'm clicking on the shape over here, and I can see all these are going to be on cut, and then our material is going to be vinyl glossy. Make sure that it's auto cut and auto blade. If it doesn't say auto blade, make sure that it says auto blade, otherwise it might cut through the material. All the settings down here are going to be the default. For heat press vinyl, they might be different. Always check on the side of the package. We'll talk more about that when we talk about the heat press vinyl. But for the regular sticker vinyl, make sure that all the default settings are there. If you're using a matte vinyl, you might have slightly different results with the matte instead of the glossy, but you are responsible for checking that out. Usually the defaults are fine. Usually the defaults are totally fine. All right. You can get into complicated things where if you have a multicolored design, you can use the line or the fill settings to decide what you're cutting for that time. And it's a really cool way where you can get stacked stickers together. That is something for you to explore a how-to on how to do that. This is just for the basics. For the basics, we're just gonna cut on that red line that is there for the defaults. All right, looks like it's good for me. I'm gonna hit the send button. It's gonna go from my computer by Bluetooth to the cutter. If you're using the machine that's usually here, it'll be on the cord. Or if it's on your machine, you can connect to it with Bluetooth as well. So I'm gonna send it, and it should start cutting right away. Once the cut's done, it'll pause for a second and then spit it back out. You can hit the unload button. And it'll come right out. All right. Now comes one of the most challenging parts of vinyl cutting is weeding. You're taking out all the material that you don't want to keep. All right, I'm done with the cutting mat, so I am going to put the protective sheet back on top and then store it down below. And now I can show you how weeding works. All right, so not sure if you can tell in this design, but I can see the faint outlines of the parts that I cut and that I want to keep. So I'm going to take away everything else. Actually, there's a little ghost of an old cut in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the edges, one edge, and here is where some of these weeding tools come in handy. Those should always be on top of the vinyl cutter right here. All right. I want to keep the rectangle on the outside of the word sticker, so I'm going to peel out the letters of the word sticker. You can see I get a little corner, I pull it up, and it's good to go. And I go through and I peel out all the stuff that I don't want to keep for my sticker. All right, and I go through bit by bit. I'm just keeping it like that. And then I can't forget the dot on the I. Okay. And now I just want that rectangle bit, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut around it and save so that rectangle bit stays there. You'll see what that looks like in just a second. And do a little bit more weeding so that we're stuck just right. Oh, there. All right, this wasn't too crazy because it wasn't that complicated design. If you get something with a lot of cuts in it, it could take a little while to get the weeding done. So just be mindful of that as you set up your design. Now, what I can do with this little sticker is I can try and peel it off right as is. It's all one piece, so that should work. But something that'll be way easier is if you take a little bit of masking tape or some of the transfer tape and you cut that around the sticker. Let me show you. So I have a little bit of masking tape here. If you're doing a full sheet, maybe for like a t-shirt or a big design, we have big rolls of transfer tape. When you're doing little stuff like this and you know like a small piece of masking tape would work, you'll probably have a better time if you do the least amount of sticky stuff for the transfer as possible. So I like using a little bit of painter's tape or masking tape to move my design from one to the other. So we have our sticker. The blue vinyl is the part I want to keep. The white backing paper is just the backing paper. We're not going to use that. So I'm going to take my painter's tape, put it over top, smooth it down real nice. And you don't have to do this at the vinyl cart. This is just where I am. I flip it over and I get a little edge of that backing paper and I peel it and I fold it down so that the backing paper comes off, but the sticker paper stays stuck to the tape. All right. Now you can check it out. You can see through it. You might be able to see the word sticker shining through. You can see the word sticker shining through. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the thing I want to stick it to and I can just apply it on like this. Press through and smooth it down so that the vinyl, the sticker vinyl, is sticking to the thing I want to stick it to. And then gently peel off the painter's tape, get a little corner down so you can see that it stays down while the rest of the sticker stays stuck to my coffee mug. All right. So that is a real easy way to get stickers done. You could use this to apply to anything, laptops, wood, walls, wherever you need to put a sticker. If you put a little piece of masking tape or if you put some transfer paper on top of it, it's a real easy way, especially if you have more than one shape, to keep that shape perfectly aligned. I'll actually show you that on the other logo that I cut out. All right, here's the other logo I made. You can see it's in two parts. Now I could peel each one up individually and place them where I want to, but something that's better for keeping them perfectly aligned is to use a little bit of painter's tape or transfer paper to keep those shapes stuck together. So now you can see the top shape is here, the rest of the shape is there, and I can even put on more masking tape to help with the transfer process. But now that transfer tape or that painter's tape is going to keep those two pieces aligned when I peel them up. All right, so I can take them, finish doing that. Same process as before, flip it over, find a corner, start peeling it up. The paper comes off real easy, and now I have those two parts are perfectly aligned from how I cut them off. So if I were to go pop them on anything, I could just lay them down, press it out real smooth, and then carefully take the tape off, and the sticker will still be right there. And again, those two pieces will be lined up perfectly proportionately, just the same way you cut them out. All right, and just like that, you have a way to easily get stickers from your computer onto anywhere that you want to put them. All right. I'll talk a little bit more about heat transfer vinyl in another video, but when you have questions about any part of the sticker part, let me know, drop them online, and happy vinyl cutting.